What is up with you two right now just trying to recruit for your teams, man?
Hey, it doesn't hurt. So
Hey,
if
that's
everyone
what we
remembers,
gotta do, man. It's college football.
USF used to have a bomb defense, and then we just kind of fell off the map, and then we came back and we were winning games, and then we fell off the map again. And now we got Coach Golish doing stay in the Bay, and maybe we need some outside talent. Maybe that's what we need. And Tacario Davis would absolutely be fantastic. USF has done this spectacular, awfully bad thing of pass interference. Who's the top in the top 10 for most penalized teams in the past 20 years? USF. Why not put a prime talent, 4-star, 5-star athlete on the outside so you can at least start recruiting better talent and getting into the conversation of, do we go to the ACC? Do we go to the Big 12 like UCF did? Instead of staying in the American Conference and getting that whole, oh, they're not that good, or it's not the Power 6, you're just a big whatever. Get the talent, Coach Golish. Go for Tacario Davis. Get us that guy. I have a really bad feeling, probably a strong feeling, really, that he's going to go back to his coach with the Washington Huskies when he transfers. But the USF Bulls absolutely need some help on defense. We have solid offense, and what we're doing with Coach Golish, our defense has been absolute garbage for the past 5 years. So I'm saying stop the bleeding as a Bulls fan and alumni, but he's probably going to end up going to the Huskies in Washington.
And I love that. You know what? Because I'm a
perfect
Husky
transition.
Guy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Beard Zone podcast. College, yet again. And, we're getting real close to the draft, but we have a lot of things going on in the college world. I'm one of your hosts, Scooter. I got David and Carlos. How you gentlemen doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Excited. I'm more excited for the draft, but there's been a lot of stuff that has been happening in the college football world. And I feel like it's kind of maybe wrapping up the college football season with chaos, which is what we like. So I'm ready to get into it.
The portal causes chaos. That should be the mission statement.
Statement, end state, whatever term you want to use. Yeah, transfer portal. Before we hit this topic, right? Hit the share, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit us up on our socials. We'll hit that at the end of the podcast. But this time we're going over the transfer portal. And we each have mixed feelings on this. To hit it first, though, the NIL changed the game, right? We went from not paying players and only scholarships and very limited and under the table, not so under the table. You get the Johnny Manziel, you get the Reggie Bush, you got the stuff that was going on at USC, you got the stuff that was going on at UF with Urban Meyer and Ohio State. So NIL, it was a long time coming. We all know that, but I think there should be a little bit of oversight there, because obviously your top players are getting paid, but some of the smaller schools, they still need some representation. I'm not saying it's equal by any means. We all know it's not. So should a college player be making tens or whatever millions of dollars? I think it's market based, right? We teach it like a business. Now, to that same point, we hit the transfer portal. And if we want to take this as it's getting danger close to NFL business, I think we as fans like to see the best product on the field, right? We like to see the camaraderie. We like to see that like blood rivalry type deal. I still think the transfer portal needs some form of, I don't want to say control, but oversight. If you're going to treat the players in a monetary standpoint from an NIL, what's to say that they can't do it from a scholarship or contractual deal, right? Is it a 1 year with stipulations, or is it a 2 year, 3 year type deal? And I think that's how they should approach it. I'm not against transfer portal, because by all means, if a dude is trying to get to the pros, sitting on the bench is not how you get there. So I'm really welcoming this up to both of you guys and obviously to the listeners as well on how you think NIL / transfer portal really is effective or ineffective, or if you would keep it as is or eliminate.
I mean, I think that the NIL deal is good. Ultimately, I remember a few years back, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and he was talking about something like the NIL, right? Where these players, the profit that the colleges make off of these players and their, and
It's insane.
their play is insane, right? And so the risk factor, I mean, because we've seen it before, we've seen players in college that should have gone pros and then they didn't go pro because they got hurt, right? So I'm definitely for NIL, but I'm also really for the transfer portal. I understand where you're coming from a little bit, where you're saying that it should be somewhat of a contract, commit here to a couple of years. But you said it. You said it there at the end. These guys are trying to make it to the pros. That's the bottom line. That is their end goal. So why are we restricting these guys? Because some of these guys, they go to teams and they just sit on the bench. And they should be on the field, and they're wasting their time there when they could be getting their tape. They can build their resume. That's exactly what it is. They can build their resume. They can go where they're wanted, and where they are going to be utilized in the way that they need to be utilized to make their game at its highest. And I think that the transfer portal, although it brings a lot of chaos, one, it brings a lot of fun, I feel like, to college football, right? It gets a lot of eyes on it, although college football has a lot of eyes on it regardless. But I still think that these players should be able to have the freedom to go from the schools because they can commit. I have a couple of players here, and I know that we're going to dive into it here in a little bit. But some of these players, they commit to a team, right? When they had other offers on the table, but they decided to go with a certain team because maybe the money was a little bit better, or maybe they felt like the coaching was a little bit better, and then it just didn't pay out. It didn't pay out, and they want to go to programs that are gonna get them into the spotlight. And so I feel like if we restrict that, it's going to restrict the access and it's going to restrict these guys' resumes. I'm for it. I'm 100% for it.
All right.
I am definitely on the other side of this where I'm not anti-NIL. I think the players should get paid. Being a guy that's kind of lived in that world for a little bit, they should get paid because they don't get any money. But I don't know whatever happened to the days of I commit to a team and it's like the may the best man win. Now it's, I can't beat the guy out in front of me, so I'm just going to leave. So it's like a kid, I'm taking my ball and going home. So I'm definitely against it. It as a college fan, you can't build a relationship with these players. They're here 1 minute, you're excited that they got recruited, you can't wait to see them hit the field, and they're gone. Whether they go to your rival or wherever. I prefer to see these kids. You committed to your team, show some. That I think that says a lot. Like, hey, I'm committing to you. These guys used to stay 4 years. It wasn't uncommon for a guy to sit for 2 years. You only need one good college year to make it in the pros. You don't need 2 to 3. If you have that one good year and you time it out right, I mean, you don't need 3 years as a quarterback. You just need one. And then if it's that senior year, you're going to go. And just not for the bouncing around. I think these kids, they're committed and, they should kind of man up a little bit. And if somebody's beating you out, hey, work a little bit harder.
But I think that that's just the business side of it, though, Carlos. Like if you go into the NFL, if you look at the NFL, right, they always say it. It's, hey, man, it's just strictly business. It's nothing personal. And I think that that's what these kids are doing. They're just making business moves. And you say, okay, they only need one good year, but that one good year always comes back as a negative when they're getting scouted and to go into the draft. They're like, well, but they've only had a year of, good. So what are we gonna see from it? We even hear it in the pros, everyone wants to talk about Baker Mayfield last year, right? He had a great season, but how long is it going to last? So that's kind of what I feel like that the criticism that these guys gets, which I feel like hurts their draft stock. And if it hurts their draft stock, it hurts their pocket when it comes to the NFL.
Yeah, but
So
now they're locked. They're locked into contracts. They can't make the big money anymore, and they got the combine. I mean, I get what you're saying, but when we refer to Baker, he's playing in a contract year last year, so he balls out to the extent of Baker. Now he's paid. He's got guaranteed money. It's just these kids. I get it. They're getting their money, and they're gonna. It's not like they're gonna lose that money when they sign these NIL deals. They're for amount of years. It's not like here's $1 million and you're done.
it's
They
contractual.
sign for 2 to 3 years. Yeah, it's a contractual contract, so they're going to get their money.
Mm.
It's just when you college football has that. It's not like the pros. We get it. It's a business. Players leave. You buy a jersey of a pro player, you might only have that guy for a couple of years, and then you're wearing the that guy that doesn't play anymore for your team, but you're still wearing his jersey to the games. But in college wasn't like that. It just I just think it's got its fun stuff. I do like when the portal opens, you got a chance to turn your team around, but I kind of like to see these kids just stay put. You're gonna get your money,
With all that said, it seems like we went from and keep in mind, this is not just the past 10 years. This is a decade by decade look at it. We went from team-based, being a championship team, to all about me, right? I understand you're putting your body on the line and everything else like that, and you got to take care of yourself at the end of the day, but there still needs to be that factor of, I don't want to say the term loyalty, I feel like that's the wrong one, but like some form of, I'm still a team player, right? I'm not going to be that guy that's out there in the middle of the star like T.O., like, look at me. I'm not going to do that. And in the college world, and that's why Saban and all these like historic coaches have had historically really good teams, right? Back to back to back to back, is they've gotten them to perform well individually and understand the collective end goal, right? You want to get that championship. Now, that being said, we got some guys in our transfer portal that are hanging out there, right? And some of these names, if you don't pay attention to college football, we understand. And if you don't pay attention to the smaller teams, or you don't pay attention to the guys that are trying to make a move to get that 1 year, right? Or to get to the pros. Houston, the University of Houston Cougars, they went from Conference USA to the American Conference, just like Cincinnati, and then they jumped to the Big 12. And Big 12 football is a lot different. And it's also very vertical, right? You're doing a lot of passing, a lot of these RPOs and stuff. But Sam Brown from the University of Houston, wide receiver, he's not the tallest. He's at 6'2", kind of 200 pounds. Just I'm 200 pounds ish. Sorry. If he puts on some size, he will be a bigger wide receiver. He's still very good. And what you're going to see on paper is size, speed, and the yak ability, yards after catch. That's what you get with him, and that's what he came from Houston. Now, he had a limited route tree, so with a grain of salt, right? He is a very good prospect to take from the transfer portal, but he still needs some fine-tuning and potentially pro. I don't know where he fits. Obviously, if it's this year, he is way at the bottom of the talent pool. But if he can get that maturity and that refinement in the route tree and his footwork, because he has great hands, he'll be fine. Now, it took a lot of digging to take a look at some teams that need a wide receiver, right? It's a skill position. Some dudes show up and they're just absolute beasts, right? I would like to see Sam Brown with, I think you're gonna like this one, Carlos, the Miami Hurricanes. They've had a rough time, and they haven't been really great since like the Ray Lewis, Jeremy Shockey area. So, or arena or time, whatever. And I would like to see him go with the Aggies, the Texas A&M Aggies. Again, with the whole going back to like the Mike Evans and Johnny Football, right? These two teams to me seem like it would be a good fit. He's a reasonably sized wide receiver with great speed and hands. He just needs that refinement. Performing in the SEC should translate well to the NFL. Obviously, there's some catch there, right? And then performing in the ACC has proven that you can go to the NFL as well, right? So I think those two teams would be a good fit for a wide receiver. Now, with all of these prospects and transfer portals, we would also love to hear your thoughts on the ones that we're talking about and potentially other ones that we have not accounted for. So,
yeah.
With that being said, Dave, you want to lead off with your next guy?
Yeah, kind of Carlos, or actually you were talking about it when we were talking about the transfer portal. It's become a very me, myself, and I kind of thing going on with some of these players, which I don't mind it. I kind of like it. I mean, if you look at the NFL, every team has a superstar. And now if you're looking into college, I mean, look, the number one prospect this year, right? Yeah. Caleb Williams. He's a superstar. Let's just be real.
Is he?
Well, okay. Look, overall, he's going to be the number one pick. As far as would he be number one off the board if everyone had a quarterback? Probably not. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be the number one guy, overall, as far as, talent and what he can bring to the table. But Caleb Williams is going to add, some good value to the Chicago Bears. But I want to stick with a guy who went to a team last year and everyone thought that this was going to be the dream match, right? Because he went to go and play for arguably the best athlete that has ever graced the football field, and definitely the number one shutdown corner that's ever graced the football field, and that's Deion Sanders. I'm talking about Cormani McClain. Okay, he was the number one corner and defensive back coming out of high school, 5-star guy out of Lakeland. I mean, got to represent, Central Florida. So I absolutely love it. But he goes there and then he doesn't produce what we thought he was going to produce. Now, granted, he was a little in the shadow of Travis Hunter, who Travis Hunter is an absolute beast. And we know that because he can play both sides of the field really well, right? I don't know where he's going to go, moving forward. I think that he needs to pick a side. But that's just my humble opinion. Just so then that way, because when you go to the NFL, you're not going to play both sides. But McClain, man, didn't have too great of a year last year as far as stats wise. But again, he also kind of got pushed off to the side. And I think that's exactly the perfect argument for what I'm saying about this transfer portal. You have this kid who can clearly be a very high prospect coming into, the draft that he's going to go into, whatever, here in the next couple of years. But he needs to play. He needs to get those reps in. He needs to show that he can produce when he's on the field. And when you limit his time on the field like Deion Sanders did last year, that's when you run into issues. Now, I get it. There's been some backlash from him as far as not wanting to practice and, smoking the devil's lettuce, some would say. But it's like, come on, man. It's 2024, so no one cares about that anymore. And you played for Deion Sanders. So what are you talking about, Deion? You were the guy who didn't want to practice at all. You were the guy who didn't want to go and do the combine. So are you mad because he might be the next coming of you as far as your personality? Like, do you think that he's going to overtake your stardom? I'm not saying that he's going to overtake his talent. I'm not saying that at all, because Deion is next level, right? And that's it. We can't compare any of these college kids to him. But is Deion afraid that he's going to steal some of his clicks? Because, Deion is all about the clicks up in Colorado, and Oregon said it first. I'm not saying it. And now McClain came out and said it himself. I want to go to a team that's going to want to win. A lot of people are having him come to Florida, and I think the perfect fit for him is FSU. And that's, I think, the number one team that is on the radar for him. And if you look at it, he can go and play for Adam Fuller, who is I think he's in his 4th year now with FSU, and the guy has a great resume, an absolutely great resume. He has developed corners and defensive backs that have been drafted and that have found success in the NFL. Are they these number 1 corners in the NFL? No, not all of them. But they're consistent, and they're the guys who get paid, and they're the guys who want to add depth to the teams that they go to. And I think that that's what McClain can go. And also to go back, he was recruited by Mike Norvell, who was the head coach for FSU. He was recruited by him out of high school. But then, of course, Deion comes in, says, hey, look, I'm Deion Sanders. This is what I'm doing. This is how much we'll pay you. And then, the story wrote itself this year. Now he's taking control of his own destiny. He's taking control of his college career. And I like the move, and I would love to see him in FSU.
So you just took something, and if you get roasted again on YouTube comments,
why would I get roasted again?
Okay, so here,
what did I say?
I'll lay it out for everyone that ever listens to this episode. You just said I'm not going to equate him to Deion Sanders, McClain to Deion Sanders, right? He goes to Deion Sanders. Then he said he's going to be a good talent in the NFL. He's a cornerback. Deion Sanders is a quarterback. He goes to work for Deion in Colorado. And then you say he transfers to FSU.
Goes back to Deion, where Deion came from.
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
Come on. Hey, but he is right. It is one of the top, and Norvell is great when it comes to, especially the spring portal. Like, he cleaned up last year and took that team from, it was a good team, but he took it to if they don't lose their starting quarterback, they're probably playing for a national championship. It was a really good team. He turned it around quick.
He built it quietly.
He did. He he smoke screened everybody, and the ones that were paying attention saw it. I think a team to watch out for McClain. I think he comes back to his home state. Don't sleep on UCF that he doesn't pop in there. Somehow
USF, you got to go with the Bulls.
Yeah, and that's another one. I think he comes home back to Florida, but it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't stay in the Central Corridor and hits the Bulls or the Knights. So he's going to be an interesting one to go to. Hopefully he comes to Miami. Be awesome. But speaking of another guy, it seems like these West Coast guys just leave. So their states. A guy that's intriguing to me is Damian Martinez from Oregon State. He's another one. He's had 2 good years at Oregon State, and he just he's done. So he's moving on. This is a guy that's 1,000-yard seasons each year, 16 touchdowns total over the last 2 years. The guy's he's a beast. He can run. I mean, he comes from a school that runs. In Oregon State, they run the ball pretty well. He is definitely going to change a team for the better. I think his top landing spot right now is I think he's going to be a Hurricane. I think by the next week he signs, and between him, Cam Ward, and that group of receivers that they have a bunch of Sam Smith guys, or not Sam Smith. God, who was the guy you were talking about earlier? Sam Brown. They have guys like him. Brown is an exceptional talent, especially after the catch. The guy he motors. But he's a guy that I think wherever he goes, if he ends up Miami, I feel like they turn into a top 15 offense overnight with this guy. So he's going to be one to watch out for. If he ends up at Florida State, I'm going to take a ride to Tallahassee and get Norvell out of there one way or another. I can't take, as a Hurricane fan, I can't take Norvell freaking recruiting like a beast. But yeah, and Miami's got a good O-line, real young guys, but they're good. Cristobal, he's a O-line guy himself for the Hurricanes, and he's built an O-line. And I think Martinez goes there, balls out, and who knows, he might earn himself a first-round pick next year.
Yeah, he was very productive for the Beavers, and what I liked about his game was his field vision, his patience, right? It was very good in going from a West Coast type spread and then going to Miami, it would show his ability to be dynamic and learn different systems. So that's a very, I kind of like that. I like that.
Do you think that it would also help Cam Ward?
Yeah, it definitely would. I mean, they have good running backs there. They've lost a couple to the portal. They lost Henry Paris to Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Guy they recruited, Trevion Citizen, he just entered the portal. And their guy, the young guy they had last year, he's coming off injury. And then another guy's Don Chaney Jr. He was good. He's notorious for the Georgia Tech fumble. So at the end of last year, it's pretty much caused their season to spiral. But Miami definitely needs him. But
It's rough.
if Cam can get this guy, and he's recruiting him hard, it'll be a big win. From what I understand, there's some NIL dollars down there that he can take advantage
Maybe just
of.
a little bit.
Couple dollars.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Miami
those
University
boosters,
has
man.
money.
Those,
Yeah, they
come to Coral
got
Gables,
one.
man. You'd be all right.
They got one
Yeah,
big
right.
booster. That's all they need, man. He's a billionaire and he loves the Miami Hurricanes.
Dude,
That's
I
all
tell
it
you what,
takes.
Miami
Yeah.
fan base is intense. But so is FSU. But we're gonna go back. We're gonna keep West Coast transfers. We're gonna switch the side of the ball, right? We're gonna go to the defensive side of the ball. Cornerback Tacario Davis. And he's from Arizona. He's 6'4", okay, playing corner. That's a sizable dude lining up against
big,
you. And especially with some of the talent that we've seen in the NFL with these big guys like Mike Evans and all of them. He for the Pac-12 is as far as all that passing and stuff. How do you not look at this guy as a top talent, right? He breaks the ability of the wide receiver to just get off the ball, right? It's the intimidating presence, the hands, the press, right? I would be very hard pressed to see him not taken very soon, especially with all the other transfers that we've seen so far. I'm really shocked that some SEC team or Big Ten team hasn't taken him or is not really in the mix. I think there was talk of him going to Georgia or Alabama given their loss, but then we watched the transfer portal and Alabama and Georgia absolutely capitalized. So I'm not really sure if an SEC team, maybe Mizzou, maybe, but it's still Mizzou. So it's like, do you risk it? His coach, though, from Arizona went to the Huskies. So if you stay on the West Coast and you want to stay with somebody you know and you performed well for, go to Washington. However, given that he is very good at reacting to breaks, press coverage, and everything else, hopefully he's listening, go to USF. Tacario Davis needs to go to USF.
What is up with you two right now just trying to recruit for your teams, man?
Hey, it doesn't hurt.
Hey,
So if
That's
everyone
what we
remembers,
gotta do, man. It's college football.
USF used to have a bomb defense, and then we just kind of fell off the map, and then we came back and we were winning games, and then we fell off the map again. And now we got Coach Golish doing stay in the Bay, and maybe we need some outside talent. Maybe that's what we need. And Tacario Davis would absolutely be fantastic. USF has done this spectacular, awfully bad thing of pass interference. Who's in the top 10 for most penalized teams in the past 20 years? USF. Why not put a prime talent, 4-star, 5-star athlete on the outside so you can at least start recruiting better talent and getting into the conversation of, do we go to the ACC? Do we go to the Big 12 like UCF did? Instead of staying in the American Conference and getting that whole, oh, they're not that good, or it's not the Power 6, you're just a big whatever. Get the talent, Coach Golish. Go for Tacario Davis. Get us that guy. I have a really bad feeling, probably a strong feeling, really, that he's going to go back to his coach with the Washington Huskies when he transfers. But The USF Bulls absolutely need some help on defense. We have solid offense in what we're doing with Coach Golish. Our defense has been absolute garbage for the past 5 years. So I'm saying stop the bleeding as a Bulls fan and alumni, but he's probably going to end up going to the Huskies in Washington.
And I love that. You know what? Because I'm a
perfect
Husky
transition.
Guy, so perfect. Because if I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to jump on the bandwagon and I'm going to start recruiting for
You're not
the
a Husky
Huskies.
guy.
If
You're a
it fits.
I am a
guy.
Husky guy.
Dude, he was drinking the Husky Kool-Aid so bad this
I
season.
dude,
Oh
I'm
my
a Husky,
God.
dude. And
You are
all of
Are you trying to grow for the trying to
gosh
blend
dang
in?
it. Yeah, dude. I'm trying to get this a little bit so that way I can, withstand the colder weather when I go up there and root on the Huskies. Look, all of my favorite dude. And I'll tell you what, in a couple of years, he'll probably be in a Bucks uniform if he goes to the Huskies because Jason Light loves to draft the Huskies. Vita Vea, Troy Shoanka.
Yeah.
They produce some big boys up there. I will give them that. There's some big,
and he's 6'4". He's a big boy. He just fits. It's destiny at this point. If you guys are going to recruit for your teams, I might as well recruit for my team. I might as well just jump on it.
Go ahead, man.
I'll tell you what. I'm not going to do any recruiting for this next guy. And this is a guy I've been wanting to talk about, and it's Jaden Rashada. He's a quarterback at Arizona State. And this is kind of like a little bit where the NIL plays in also. So this guy's I'll go quick with his story. He commenced in the University of Miami. Supposedly has a $9.5 million NIL deal for 3 or 4 years. He decommits. And then all of a sudden, the Florida Gators promise this guy $13.5 million over 4 years. The biggest NIL deal that's been publicized. He commits, he signs his letter of intent, and once you're signed,
That's a lot.
you're signed. Yeah, you're locked into that school unless they grant you release. First payment of that for his NIL deal was December 5th. December 5th rolls around, nothing. He's already signed for the early signing period. December 7th rolls around. Oh, he's got no payment. Florida takes back their NIL deal and tells them no. They never had the money. They didn't have anything. So this guy's turned down $9.5 million from the Hurricanes. He was going to get paid. And I think this is where these kids and they're young and they like the NIL I think needs some kind of a cap. Because this kid gets swayed. He gets a lawyer, he gets out of his letter of intent, and he ends up at Arizona State. He gets an NIL deal there.
The heck of a transition.
$0 this kid gets. He gets nothing. So he always kids so he's entered the portal. He's actually a very good quarterback. He got hurt. He started out really strong with Arizona State, very quick with the Sun Devils and some injuries, and then they shut him down. He makes a joke while he's leaving Arizona State. He has a $11 million backpack that has nothing in it. So I think this kid. I think he's gonna get his NIL deal that he's been looking for. He's I believe he's destined for the SEC. Whether he's visiting Georgia this weekend,
he is visiting Georgia. That's what I was just about to say.
That's a bold move.
Yeah,
they have a quarterback.
He does, and Rashada's not he was pretty when they had the Elite 11 camps, guys showed down. He's not afraid of competition, so he'd understand. I think he'd have to sit a year. I don't think he really cares, but he is cocky enough, and he's a South Florida guy, so he's not afraid of competition. So I feel like he's going to end up in the SEC. I don't know if it's going to be Georgia. I think Auburn's in play, Mississippi State's in play. And then there's always those wild cards out there. There's some rumors of UCLA since he's kind of already out that way. But I think he ends up back at the SEC. I think he's burned every bridge in, his Florida home team. So he's going to be an interesting one, but he is one that you see how that NIL deal for young kids that are 17, 18 can really – I mean, the kid lost $9.5 million as of right now, but I think he ends up a Bulldog. I think he takes a shot, and it's Georgia. I mean, the heck,
They'll
you
pay
know.
him.
Yeah, he'll get his money.
I
and
think
he'll
they got some
compete.
money up there. I think maybe just a little bit.
Yeah, just a
I
couple.
Just a
think
little bit.
I don't
That's
know.
messed up though. Is it okay? So hold on. Let's just kind of sit on this for a minute and talk about the NIL. Florida. So you said FSU, right? Decommitted
Miami,
their NIL.
Florida.
Miami offered it to him, and then
Right,
Florida
Florida.
offered him a bigger one with
UF,
13
yeah.
mil,
Yeah.
and then they decommitted from that. Is there any sort of repercussions
No.
for that?
No, from the
No.
school standpoint, or so the player gets the shaft essentially, and if they don't get paid, and it's kind of like a catch out for the school or whoever's paying the deal itself, whether it's a company or the school, right, or the boosters, right? The player gets screwed out of the money. They can do whatever they want. They can go wherever they want. It's kind of like, and that's why I mentioned contracts, right? So both parties are liable for the production that they need to do, right? Not only like the supervisors and the employee, but the person supplying the money as well, right? If they think there's a bad term or clause or whatever in the contract, it can be redone at any point in time, right? So that there's no breach and there's not a bad investment on both sides. Now, oh, man, you said the NIL absolutely needs to be monitored, oversight, corrected, or managed a lot better. I think there's some talks from the outside and inside the NCAA as far as how to take that and moldy turd and make it something better. So you said SEC, and you said
What a statement right there.
dude, I got plenty of stuff.
Moldy turd.
And
All
just
right.
trying to polish it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got plenty of one-liners for sure. They're just mostly not PG. So, man, SEC would be very interesting. And Georgia has a quarterback. Florida needs somebody. I don't know what they tried to do last year, but they need somebody. Tennessee's losing Milton, but they have I think the Hawaiian kid. Mississippi State, Texas A&M. Who was the other one?
Now he's gonna be a Bulldog.
I'm pretty sure he's going to stay. Auburn
he's most likely
Auburn,
going to be a Bulldog, man.
So Auburn had a good run on the second half of the season, but Auburn hasn't had that greatness since Cam Newton. And Bo Nix was supposed to be that guy, but he got injured and everything else. And I think like Gus Malzahn's leaving them. It's been a couple of years, but Gus Malzahn leaving was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they got to compete.
Well, I think he's gonna. I think that the writing. It seems like the writing is on the wall for a lot of these guys. You know, especially the top end guys, which kind of takes me to the guy that I'm going to talk to about next. That's offensive lineman Jason Zandamela. I believe that's how you pronounce that name. Forgive me if I butchered it. I probably did. But he's coming from USC. USC was ranked 106 last year in offensive line ranking. So obviously they didn't do too well. But he also he's still the number 2 O-line prospect, just behind Caden Proctor. So he's still young. He was a true freshman last year. So he's gonna be able to, really, I think he'll go to a program and probably finish his college career there, to really kind of build it up. And we're going to go right back to Florida, man. All the big guys in Florida are looking like the prime targets. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to Miami. Now, Carlos, you can always chime in on this. You guys got Cam Ward now. You're talking about, the running back who you just mentioned not that long ago about possibly going down there. You said that they have a young offensive line. He can continue to kind of add to that depth. And I think that he's a great interior lineman. So we'll create great holes in the middle of the O-line for that Miami offense if he does decide to go down there. But I think whoever gets this kid is going to get a real steal.
Yeah, I think so. And Lincoln Riley has to be hating the transfer portal. He's the 12th guy to leave since it's opened up. So he is he's hating it, and unfortunately for him, it's a lot of offensive linemen. Yeah, he's a big kid. I could see him coming to Florida. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't end up at Florida State too. Miami has a center for this year, but Miami has been doing like 1-year deals. They get Matt Lee from Central Florida the year before. Guy, does a good job, but yeah, he's one of those guys. He's a center, and he's just a center. Like I don't think he fits in guard anywhere, but he's a kid that he's big.
He is big.
He's definitely he's a 300-pounder, but he's not a chunky 300-pounder for a young kid. So he's wherever he ends up, he's going to make an impact at some point. He's going to be a good player. I think Norvell snags this kid up in the middle of the night. And
FSU takes him. That's another team that's on the radar. They're saying all big three. They're saying that the big teams in Florida, FSU, UF, Miami, those are the teams to watch for this kid. But can we just talk about USC for just a brief second, really quick? Because they're bleeding from this transfer portal.
Lincoln Riley is a trash human. I don't know how
else. Just a trash human, just in general.
Watch his trajectory.
This is Lincoln Riley right now,
dude.
With his roster, it's all gone.
Yeah, he's gonna sit in the bots after our podcast. Yeah, I'm fine with it. No, he's like Urban Meyer. He always builds this team, and then he's like, "Oh, I got problems," and leaves. He's like, who's the guy?
I mean, okay, fair enough.
At least he didn't fake a heart attack like Urban did.
Fair enough. Or he just, after a loss, he just stays at his bar and just allows the team to fly down south.
No, who's the guy who's Ole Miss coach?
The old two-finger special, but
Lane Kiffin.
Lane Kiffin does the same thing. They're all
Lane Kiffin.
Category, man. It's all the same category. And Lincoln Riley, welcome to the Shammer head coach category. You do so great at getting like weird top athletes and then just like dumping the team.
So you guys would say that it's more of a Lincoln Riley problem? Because when I initially saw it, I was thinking, maybe are these guys leaving because Caleb Williams is now gone? I didn't know.
Let me ask this. Why do employees leave? It's a very simple question.
They hate the environment.
They hate the environment, which is primarily run by management, and the head coach is the lead management.
Right.
The one that's directly interfacing with the players on a regular basis.
Fair enough.
You're the problem, bro. Own
Lincoln Riley, man. Look in the mirror. Hey, listen to Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson. Maybe it will inspire you.
Great song. Good call, Dave.
Fantastic song. Yeah. I just wanted to ask because I didn't know because I saw it and I was like, is it maybe because Caleb Williams is now gone, so they lost all hope? But I'm assuming now, hearing from you two guys, I guess Lincoln Riley is the toxic person there in the locker room, which makes sense. You nailed it right on the head. So, but at the end of the day, this kid right here, Zandamela, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. And the crazy thing about it is that he didn't even start playing until 2020. He didn't start playing football until 2020 when he came to the States. So the fact that he's already like pretty much the number one interior guy behind Caden Proctor, that's saying a lot. This guy's a natural talent. So, and I think he uses his size to his ability.
So natural talent is the perfect term for that because and you watch his highlighters tape, right? He's very quick to shifting. I think he needs some tweaking, right? Because he's still very nuanced to the sport. He has decent hands. His footwork from a natural talent, pretty awesome, and it's very fluid. But I think there's some fine tuning with like his base and his lateral movement. I would love to see him in Iowa. That'd be great. That way I can actually watch some football. Yeah, dude, these prospects.
USF, bro, Bulls, man, let's go.
So surprisingly, we actually do have a decent line. It's not the best, but Coach Golish has done a fantastic job and I think he's doing leagues ahead of what I would imagine. I was so skeptical. Another like Clemson dude coming in. I was like, oh my God, please don't be like Scott. Please don't be like Coach Scott. And then he just like changed the culture and environment, and dudes want to stay. Yeah, we lost Jimmy Horn. I got it. Transfer portal, Deion Sanders, and I totally understand. The kid's an absolute beast. But USF has had these great players. BJ Daniels, Matt Grothy, MVS, Quentin Flowers,
Right.
was it Nichols? I mean, the list can go on.
Right.
But we had Selvey, we had JPP, Sam Barrington. So, like, if we can just get the culture right, the leadership needs to be right, and you get the kids to get on board that are turning into men, like Deion's trying to do in Colorado, Coach Golish is trying to do just a little bit differently in USF. You got to create boys into men and get them to get that collective
Great band,
mindset.
by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. A great man on the field, off the field. Yeah. It's just, once you build that culture in an organization, you win. Look what Nick Saban's doing. Look what Kirby Smart's doing. All the other great teams, right, that have done these runs, they get the team to get that mindset, and they own it. And these players,
well, I think the transfer portal is definitely. I mean, it doesn't seem to get crazier every year, because I think it just seems to get crazy. Is it because of the NIL deals now?
It is.
Yeah.
So the last report was a quarterback transfer is like a high end, like the Florida State quarterback DJ Ulagala. I can't pronounce that last name. You know, when it's guaranteed that somebody of his stature is going to get 1.5 to 2 million. So it is. I think quarterbacks will move around a lot because it's, you know, if you got 3 productive years and you're moving, you're guaranteed 1.5 to 2 million. So it's free agency and college football. I think it's here to stay, but unfortunately, but you know, what are you going to do? Embrace it, I guess.
Well, I'm going to continue to ride the I Am Pro transfer portal because it creates this chaos and it creates content for us. You can stay in your old ways and not join the 21st century, Carlos, so that's okay.
But overall, college gentlemen, player, young blood.
Dude, when you start talking OG college, man, it goes way back. Like I was saying, blood rivalries, man. Yeah. But as always, we appreciate everyone that's listened thus far, or this is your first episode. We appreciate that as well. If you've gotten this far into our episode, we got a couple socials. We got an email. We got Gmail, thebeardzonepodcast@gmail.com. We got Twitter at BeardZonePod. We got Instagram at the Beard Zone Football Podcast. And then we got our Facebook at the Beard Zone Podcast. Hit us up on any of the socials. We're willing to talk to you, banter. If we suck, let us know. They definitely let Dave know.
Let us know.
They definitely let Dave know a couple episodes ago. So we're good. And we're probably going to get roasted again if people continue to listen to us, and I'm totally fine with it. So do you guys have anything for the beautiful people before we go?
No, man, we appreciate you guys listening. You know, if you made it this far, definitely be sure to hit that like, subscribe button down below. Leave a comment on who you want your team to scoop up this transfer portal and who you're keeping your eyes on. Because, I mean, as college football fans, you know, we all have, as these two guys would say, I mean, we're all doing our own little recruiting. But it's been a lot of fun. We appreciate you guys. And just, you know, like I said, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. That's the best way to support us right now.
You're exactly right. College football is all about recruiting. So, drop some comments in there, some players we might have missed. You know, on there, it's always fun.
Yes, sir.
On that note, y'all, it's been a pleasure. Beard Zone out.